Hey everybody, good morning. It's still morning. It's about 11:19. I just wanted to hop on here and provide an update since my last post about 2 months ago on my journey with depression, anxiety, mental health. A lot of things that I've learned since then. Some conversations I've had with the community, and where I am today and where I see my next steps. And so we just celebrated Christmas yesterday. It was amazing. Christmas Eve service at church. I went to Christmas Eve service. I didn't wear earplugs for a certain amount of time. I did just put in some light, just lightly covered my ears when I felt like, a little nervous. I just didn't want to feed the fear. And so that's just been my go-to, is to just not feed that fear loop that we find ourselves in. So just to summarize real quickly, last August 2024, if you haven't watched my previous video, I started to get head pressure. I had a couple panic attacks. Eventually I downward spiraled to hyperacusis, which was sound sensitivity to high pitch and low pitch noises. And then that eventually in the November-December timeframe had moved towards what I think the community would call Noxacusis. It's one of those things that are sort of a mystery. Mine was burning, piercing pain. It was sometimes delayed. I had reactive tinnitus. The reactive tinnitus has since gone. But as of today, I'm 100%. I have no sound sensitivity and I have no ear ringing. Which is amazing. I can't explain the no ear ringing. I wish I could. I wish it was a slow progression to going away, but to be completely honest with you, I woke up last week and it was gone. And I don't know how to explain it. And so I can't really explain that one besides it being a miracle. So just to reiterate, again, this is my story and I have nothing to gain from this. I really just want to give folks hope as they're going through this nightmare, this hell on earth that those in this community would find themselves in. And I think there's a lot more research going into it as more are starting to experience this terrible condition. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for others that there will be a cure, that there'll be something that we'll be able to identify to bring people out of this darkness, because it's just terrible. I still take Prozac. One thing that has changed, still taking the same dose, is 80 milligrams. They gave me a test for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder as part of my obsessive compulsive disorder, and that was glaringly obvious. And so I've started taking Adderall, and the best way that I could describe it is I have never felt normal. I'm 41 years old. And I would say for 41 years of my life, I never knew what normal was. And so it was a bit of an emotional moment when taking the Adderall, because I've been so resistant to medication based on experiences I've had and some PTSD around that, if you watch my previous video. So I started taking the Adderall, immediately felt just like everything quieted down with regards to how my mind works, because it's always racing. I've always got just complete mental exhaustion by the end of the day, to where I just crash and I just fall asleep because there's nothing left. And so when I took the Adderall for the first time, everything just, I don't want to say got quiet as in regards to the sound sensitivity. I'm saying everything got quiet in my mind. And it's really difficult to explain or describe, but normal. Is this what normal feels like, is sort of the first question I asked myself. The other component of this is my jaw. I've continued to get work on my jaw. The latest update on that is I am going to move forward with a very expensive procedure to expand my upper jaw. All of the scans show that my jaw is undersized. The bone here in my jaw, and I have some x-rays of this, it kind of sticks out and flares out more than this particular doctor has ever seen. He said that is my bone overcompensating for the grinding, where I grind my teeth, which I always have. I've grinded so hard that I've broken a tooth. And so I don't necessarily think the jaw caused all of this. I think it was just a perfect storm. So I've had anxiety in the form of OCD and ADHD my whole life, right? That fed, this anxiety loop for 40 some years. And eventually my brain said, I can't take it anymore. And my nervous system got sensitized, and it got oversensitized. And that's why I was feeling what I was feeling. In my opinion, that is my story. And so if you have a similar story, I hope that this can bring you hope. If you had noise trauma that caused this, then I can't explain why there's similarities and how these symptoms manifest the way that they do. And so, yeah, like I said, I'm 100% on my jaw. I am going to go through that procedure. The bone here that he was talking about that's sticking out, it was compensating for that clenching. And so my theory is the anxiety was creating sound sensitivity. And then that sound sensitivity was creating my central nervous system sensitization, oversensitization. And then that was causing me to do what? That was causing me to, because when you're nervous, when you're anxious, some people chew on their fingernails. I used to do that for a while. I don't anymore. Some people, even in your sleep, and I've heard of people that, they say, well, I go to sleep and I wake up and my ears are worse. That could be a result of just all night and unknowingly. But again, it's not the grinding that I necessarily believe caused the sound sensitivity, but I think it has a potential of exacerbating those symptoms. And so once the anxiety kicks off the sound sensitivity, that kicks off the nervous system sensitization, that kicks off more grinding and clenching, and then that feeds right back into the feedback loop of more anxiety. And so you're stuck in this loop. And so my theory on my situation is I just had to break the chink in that loop, which was the anxiety. And that's why the medication works so well for me, the antidepressants. Because I was able to remove that component, and it worked so well for me, the rest of that loop came down like a house of cards. And so as far as my jaw is concerned, I'm starting a procedure in mid-January to expand my upper jaw. That's going to give room for my bottom teeth to sit properly where they should sit. And so that it should save my teeth from basically grinding down to nothing in later stages of my life. And it should reposition to my jaw where it should be so that there's less tension and less need or sensation or feeling to grind, which I don't really notice. So that's going to involve an expander that they put in. I'll go in every month. They'll turn a screw and it'll basically make my upper jaw a little bit bigger than what it is now so that my teeth, these teeth on the bottom, fit behind my top teeth. Because right now, if you look, they don't. See, they sit right here naturally and they should sit just right behind it. And I can't do that. My teeth don't actually touch here. So by wearing this appliance, it's allowed my jaw to relax and sit in the position where it wants to sit rather than being forced backwards. So that's the update on that. I have stepped back into the community a little bit. I tried that after my first video. I started to experience heavier symptoms again, so I had to take a step back. I am a firm believer that in these communities, like-minded people get together and they start to think alike. They may even start to feel alike, and mind-body syndrome talks about that, how communities of people that have chronic pain will start experiencing the same symptoms based on symptoms that other people are experiencing. And so I do believe that there's something there as well. Again, the community response that I've got has been anywhere from super thankful and grateful to bitterness to confusion to unbelief to complete anger. I mean, it's a very typical response that I read a lot when I was on the forums, and that was that you must not be as bad as I am. And the only thing that I can say to that is, I am so sorry. I am so so sorry. It is terrible. My situation for me was terrible. It was, when we talk about relative pain, it was the worst possible situation in my experience that I've ever been in, to where, like I had mentioned, toilet paper hurt to tear, and I couldn't take showers, couldn't ride in cars. Yeah, I was homebound, and when I discovered Xanax helped me, that sort of opened the door to, it's possible that my nervous system is the issue here, and so that's what I went after. And so it took a lot of just hope and trust, and I think sometimes it can come off as advice. I'm not giving anyone an advice on how to take this, on how to move forward with your particular journey. I just want to share my story to give others hope that recovery is possible. Because I didn't believe it when I was in it. And the success stories, I stopped and got off all forums, and the only thing that I would read was success stories, and that helped me tremendously. So if there's anything that I can give back to this community, is that I want to give my success story. And so going from not being able to tear toilet paper, high pitch and low pitch sounds being absolutely horrendous, not being able to leave the house, tearing toilet paper hurt, couldn't take showers, to being 100%. I am 100% recovered. I have no reactive tinnitus, I have no tinnitus, and I have no sound sensitivity. I am living life to the fullest. And so that is not to bring shame and guilt or sorrow to anyone. I hope that is to bring hope and encouragement. And that is my goal. And so, yeah, that's the update. I'm going to get this jaw thing done. We'll report back on how that goes. It is, it will be a new journey, but I was sort of on the fence on whether I should do it or not. And, if it was one of those things that the doctor didn't see anything and he was saying, this is something that might be good or might not be good, then I would probably, maybe take a step back. But the fact that this doctor is saying, hey, here's the proof, here's the measurements, here's why your jaw is underdeveloped, it should be this size. Here's why you like to wear a beard, because it's underdeveloped up here. It looks a little bit funny from the side. It goes in, right, rather than kind of going outward, which would look a little bit more normal. So hopefully some of that will come from this. But the worst case, there is some financial obligations. I'm thankful that I can do that and afford that. I know there's some people that can't. And so I would encourage folks to also look at getting your jaw checked out. It could be exacerbating some of these symptoms. It could be causing those symptoms to be worse. And so I have stepped back into the forums. Specifically, I'm on the Discord, the Hyperacusis Discord. I've been having a lot of conversation with folks there. And I just want to say that I do not want to tell people what to do. I do not want to tell you how to recover. I just want to share this and demonstrate it as a success story that others can watch or read. Right? I'm assuming you're reading this in subtitles. You can read this and think, okay, I can live another day because there's hope. There's a possibility that I could be healed. I also want to mention that I did not jump right back into sound. I would say if you've had sound exposure that has caused your hyperacusis, jumping right back into sound, even if it is anxiety, mental health related, is not the best approach. I wholeheartedly agree with the community on that, because whether it's physical damage or central sensitization, then you're not ready to jump right back into going to concerts and going and being around loud kids, and you're just not ready. Your body's not ready, your brain's not ready. If it's physical damage, you don't walk on a broken leg right after it's broken. You wait for that leg to heal, and what do? You slowly start to put weight on it. If you put weight on it and jump, right into it, you're going to re-break the leg. It never had a chance to start healing. And I think that's true both for physical damage. I think that's also true for the neuro pathways in the brain to be able to rebuild and go around those pathways that are causing this physical pain. And so I did not jump right back into to life. I took things very slow. I worked with a therapist that took every ounce of energy I had just to get there. And, it was very close to my home, which I was very fortunate about. But I did start listening to classical music on my laptop, and digital noise was absolutely horrendous for me, as it is for a lot in this community. And I started to listen to classical music on the lowest setting on my laptop, and I listened to that for as long as I could. I think the first time it was maybe 15 to 30 seconds. And then I started to work myself up to where I could get to a minute. I could get to 15 minutes. I could get to 20 minutes. And once I started to be able to do that, I slowly increased the volume. That was my approach to re-exposure to sound. I would say it was not, where I started was not so uncomfortable that I felt like my head was going to explode, but there was some level of uncomfort. It's like when you go to the gym and you work out, you're going to feel that burn, right? You're going to feel, that's the area you want to stay in. But then if you keep going to the gym and you don't rest, then you can, I've had something called rhabdomyolysis in my life, where I was going to the gym too much, working out too much, and the muscle enzymes in my blood build up too much to the point that my kidneys were not able to filter it out, and it put me in the hospital for 4 days. And so I think that's similar here. You don't want to rush the field and jump back into sound. You want to take it slow as you can, as slow as possible. And that's what I did. And then I turned the volume up to where I got to the point I was listening to classical music for over an hour while I was doing other things on my computer. Then I started to wear earmuffs around the house and do things that I love to do, things with my hands. I know it's going to sound crazy, but I ran around the house and I changed every single one of the door hinges and the door handles. We had silver. I changed them all to black. Not down here in the basement. You can see that one's still silver, but in the first and second floor upstairs, I went around and did all of those. And I started with a hand screwdriver until my hands got tired, and then I put on the earmuffs and I started with the drill. And after the classical music exposure, I found that I could do that with the drill with ear protection. And so I started to re-engage in activities that I enjoyed, even though it was very, very difficult. And what I found that did was that helped me get my mind off of the pain that I was feeling. It's sort of like, it wasn't like the pain was necessarily gone, but it was just a distraction. It was putting the mind onto something else. And it takes a lot of practice to do that. And that's why often finding something that you enjoy doing is very helpful. And working with my hands and doing that kind of stuff is something I enjoy. So over several days, I went around the whole house and changed all the door hinges from silver to black and the door handles. And we have several doors, so it took a lot of time. I found that to be very helpful. And then, I started to go out more. I would force myself to walk into gas stations and see how long that I could stay. Like I said, using the weightlifting analogy, I would stay as long as I felt like, okay, it's burnt. My muscles are burning. I need to set the weight down. And so I need to step out and take a break and take a rest. I also practiced mindfulness, which was what I found for me was just laying down, thinking of all of my fears and anxieties floating on a cloud and letting those things just pass by. And I practiced resting as much of this area right here on my face as I possibly could. And I would just sit there and let my body just sink in as deep as it could with the weight. And it takes some practice, but I found that to be very helpful just to calm things down when we talk about central sensitization. And so doing that, I have, right now, I'm 100% recovered. I would also agree that, anxiety is a mental health condition. Central sensitization is a result of years of anxiety, maybe caused by trauma. And so there's a lot going on here. And so I don't take myself out of the loop that I could just go do whatever I wanted and stop taking medication and be able to and not have sound sensitivity. And so my plan right now, my next steps are, I'm still working with my psychiatrist. The Adderall may be something that I just stay on for the rest of my life. I'm not really sure, but the plan is to titrate down from the Prozac, and we'll see how that goes. If it doesn't work, then you know what? I know people that have taken medication their entire life, and it doesn't seem to be having an impact on me that it does others. I credit the DNA test to that being very helpful, showing me which medications my body metabolizes very well. If you have that available to you in your country, I would encourage you to look into that. That would help you not get on the loop of trial and error, because even that can cause other mental health issues. And so I think the pharmaceutical companies, in my opinion, benefit from you not having a DNA test, because you have to try multiple, and titrating up and down doesn't happen overnight. You have to do it over weeks. Yep, I'm continue to be hopeful for you. I continue to pray for you. I pray for this community. I do not want to bring any strife, any anger, any hate, any bitterness, any shame, any guilt to anyone in this community. I know we are all different. Our journeys are all different. But I would tell you, yes, I agree. There's some type of difference between this physical and mental approach. I cannot speak to the physical exposure. That is not what caused mine. And I'm so sorry that you're in that situation. I have seen people that have had that and have gotten out of it, though. So there are success stories for that. I would reference those success stories. If you're like me and your similar story is to me, trauma, mental trauma through your whole life, physical trauma to your heart, I guess not physical trauma, but mental trauma, anxiety, depression, ADHD, obsessive compulsive disorder, if those are things that you've had and this sort of, you woke up one day and started having some of these symptoms, and this seems to resonate with you, then here's what I would encourage. Write out what your loop looks like throughout your day. I hear a sound. It causes pain. That pain causes anxiety. That anxiety causes me to just be on edge and this central sensitization. That then causes, my sound tolerance to go down, which is what I experienced. My sound tolerance would nosedive when that. And so the goal, whether it's medication or other things, is to break that cycle, is to break the chink in that loop that is forming. And if you can do that, I think you will start to see some benefit. Will you be completely recovered to 100% like me? I don't know, but I do know that the best decision I made was to do different, because what I was doing in my situation was not working. I was only getting worse. And so it took some faith, it took some trust, and I had to take a step out in that faith. And so I just want to give you hope. I'll continue to stay engaged on Discord, the Discord Hyperacusis. If you want to go check that out, you can private message me. I can try and help you answer any questions that you might have. What I will say is I'm not going to give you advice. I'm not going to tell you, you should take this, and this is how long you should take it, and this is what you should do, and these are the steps that you could take. I'm just going to give you responses to your questions in the context to my story. And so, there's a lot of pushback in the community on sound exposure and it making things worse. There's a lot of pushback in the community on antidepressants and those types of things. I will say that, a common symptom of antidepressants when you start them is to increase anxiety. A common symptom of increased serotonin, increased, of those increased types of chemicals in your body, puts your body into a state of shock and can initially cause the anxiety to go up. For me, that was minor with Prozac. It was there. I had feelings of flushing, full body, just like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe. But then it would come in waves and go. But eventually that just sort of disappeared. And I would say it probably took me about 3 months of pushing through the minor symptoms that I did have with Prozac to start to notice big changes. And those changes started out with just these small waves of hope of like, okay, I've got my fight back. I want to get up and, speak truth into my life, speak positivity into my life. I had the want and the desire to do that. That's sort of where it started. And those things would come in waves, and then it would go, and I'd sort of feel back the same way that I did. And then those waves lasted longer and longer, to the point that I started to experience reduction in my sound sensitivity, so much so that I don't have that anymore, so no more burning, and so much so that I, just as of last week, I don't have any ringing. And so, anyways, love all you guys. My heart continues to break for you. Continue to fight. There's always hope. That's all we have when we're at the deepest, darkest valley in our life. And I know many of you are there right now. And so if I was there, I could just silently give you a hug and not even speak to you, because I know where you are. And although mine has not has been as bad as yours is, it was the worst for me, and it was the worst that I knew. So, yeah, that's all I can say. So God bless. And like I said, reach out to me on Discord in that channel if you have any questions. I'll do my best to answer them. If I don't answer right away, I'll get back to them when I can. Have a great day, and we'll provide an update here soon in the next few months. Bye.